Arm yourself with specific knowledge. If you want to make money, you have to get paid at scale. That's accountability at scale. That's leverage at scale. And just you getting paid as opposed to somebody else getting paid, that's specific knowledge. So specific knowledge is probably the hardest thing that to get across in the tweet. It's probably the thing that people get the most confused about. The thing is that we have this idea that everything can be taught, but everything can be taught in schools. It's not true that everything can be taught. In fact, the most interesting things can be taught, but everything can be learned. Very often that learning either comes from innate characteristics in your DNA, it could come through your childhood where you learned a soft skill, which are very, very hard to teach later in life. It's something that is brand new, so nobody else knows how to do it either. It's true on the job training because you're pattern matching into highly complex environments, basically building judgment in a specific domain. Classic example is investing, but it could come to anything. It would come to judgment in running a fleet of trucks. It could be judgment in weather forecasting. So specific knowledge is the knowledge that you care about, especially if you're later in life. Let's say you are post 2021, you almost don't get to choose which specific knowledge you have. Rather, you have to look at what you already built by the time, then you can build on top of it. Specific knowledge can be trained. The first thing to notice about specific knowledge is that it can be trained. If you can be trained for it, if you can go into a class and learn a specific knowledge, then somebody else can be trained for it. Then we can mass produce and mass train people. Heck, we can even program computers to do it. Eventually, we can program robots to walk around doing it. So if that's the case, then you're extremely replaceable. All we have to do is to pay you the minimum wage to get to you to do it. So you really want to pick a specific knowledge. You need your schooling. You need your training to be able to capitalize on top of the best specific knowledge. But the part of it is that you're going to get paid for the specific knowledge. Specific knowledge is found by pursuing your innate curiosity. For example, someone who goes and gets a degree in psychology, then becomes a salesperson, well, if they were already a formidable salesperson, a high grade of salesmanship begins with, then the psychology degree is a leverage. It arms them and they can do much better at sales. But if they were always an introvert, never very good at sales, they're trying to use psychology to learn sales, they are just not going to get great at it. So specific knowledge is found by much more by pursuing your innate talents, your genuine curiosity, your passion. It's not going to be the school or whatever the hottest job. It's not going into whatever field investor says is the hottest. Very often, specific knowledge is on the edge of knowledge. It's also stuff that is really hard to figure out. So if you're not 100% into it, somebody else who is 100% into it outperform you. And they won't just outperform you by a little bit. They will outperform you because we are operating in domain of ideas, compound interest really applies and leverage really applies. Building a specific knowledge will feel like play to you, but work to them. So very often, it's not something you sit down and then reason about. It's more about founding observation. It's more found by observation. You almost have to look back your own life and see what you're actually good at. For example, I wanted to be a scientist. That's where a lot of my moral hierarchy comes from. I view scientists as sorts of the top of the production chain of humanity. And the group of scientists who have made the real breakthroughs and contributions that probably added more to human society, I think, than any angle other class of human beings. Not to take away anything from the arts and politics or engineering or business, but without the science, we still have be scrambling dirt and fighting with sticks and trying to start fires. My whole value system was built around scientists. I wanted to be a great scientist, but when I actually look back at what I was uniquely good at and what I ended up spending my time doing, it was more around making money, tinkering with technology, and selling people on things, explaining things, talking to people. So I have some sales skills, which is a form of specific knowledge that I have. I have some analytical skills around how to make money. I have this ability to absorb data and obsess about it, break it down. Then that is a specific skill that I have. I also just love tinkering with technology. And all of this stuff feels like play to me. It looks like work to others. So there are other people to whom these things would be hard and they like. So there are other people to whom these things would be hard and say like, well, how do I get good at being pitching and selling ideas? Well, If you're not already good at it, maybe it's not your thing. Focus on the thing that you're already into. This is ironic because the first person who actually pointed out my specific knowledge was my mother. She did it and aside and talking about in the kitchen. She said when I was like 15, 16 years old, I was telling a friend of mine that I want to be an astrophysicist. She said, no, you're going to get into business. I was like, what? My mom telling me I'm going to be in business? I'm going to be an astrophysicist. My mom doesn't know what she's talking about. But my mom knew exactly what she was talking about. She already observed that every time we walked down the street, I'd critique the local pizza shop why they're selling the slice a certain way with a certain toppings and why their process of ordering was the way when it should have been that way. So she knew that I had a very business curious mind. But then my obsession with science combined create technology and technology businesses where I found myself. So very often, your specific knowledge is observed and often observed by other people's who know you well and revealed in situations rather than something that you come up with.